On to another lesson. Today's learning goal is I can give the equation for a graph line in slope-intercept form, and I can graph a line when given an equation in slope-intercept form. So, slope-intercept form okay, is a type of form of an equation called a linear equation. We're going to talk about what all that means in a moment, but this is going to be very important going forward. So, a linear equation is an equation with an x and y that, when graphed, is a line. The most common form of the equation is written in slope-intercept form. It is written in the form of y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Okay. So, we'll talk about what all this means in a moment, but y equals mx plus b is y-intercept form. Okay. So, for example, 2x minus 3 is a linear equation. Okay. This comes in y equals mx plus b form, where the m is 2 and the b is negative 3. Remember that the reason that b is negative 3 is because subtracting 3 is the same thing as adding negative 3. Okay? So we can rewrite this as 2x plus negative 3 if we wanted to show that the b is minus 3. And what we can do to graph this is we can find different points by plugging in negative 4 in for x and coming out with y. So we're going to fill out this chart essentially for this equation right here. So 2 times negative 4 minus 3 is negative 11. Negative 2 times negative 2 minus 3 is, so negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. 2 times 2 minus 3 is 1. 2 times 4 minus 3 is 5. Okay. So what these are, these are all different points on this line on the graph. So these are all coordinate points. So negative 4, negative 11. Negative 2, negative 7, 0, negative 3, 2, 1, 4, 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph each one of these points on this table right here. Okay? And so negative 4, negative 11 means we're going to go back 4, down 11. So that's going to be right there. Well, let me graph it. 4, 11 right there. Okay. Negative 2, negative 7, so back 2, down 7. I'll remember that it's always the x first, the x and then the y. 0, negative 3, so it goes over 0 times down here. 2, 1, 4, 5. And I could have chosen really any points. I could have found out, had another box right here and that said 1, and 1 would have gotten us negative 1, etc. It doesn't really matter. These x numbers are not necessarily important. But as you guys can see, that this forms a straight line. And so if I were to connect all of them, it would look like this. Okay. And what that means is that this is a linear equation because it forms a straight line. That's what a linear equation means. It forms a straight line if we take these points right here that we got from plugging in random x values in and getting our y values. Okay. We would get a straight line. Okay. That's what a linear equation is. We've already done a linear equation before. Okay. We've done linear equations with proportions. Y equals 2x is a linear equation. And you might say, well, this doesn't look like a linear equation because mx plus b is our linear equation and there's no b. Well, here, our m value is going to be 2 because it's the number right next to the x, it's the coefficient. But our b value is actually 0. Okay? And we just don't write it because plus 0 doesn't really affect things. Okay? So let's fill out this table again. Negative 4, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8. So we're going to plot these points again on here. So it'll be -4, -8, -2, -4, 0, 0, 2, 4, 4, 8. And again, we can see that this makes a straight line. Okay, straight lines. So, like we said, we know this has a proportional relationship. Okay, y equals 2x is a proportional relationship. We've talked about that before because the y-intercept is 0, 0. Remember, all proportional relationships have to go through 0, 0, and it does right here. Thus, a proportional relationship is a linear equation. So proportional relationships are a type of linear equations with a y-intercept of 0, 0. Okay. Slope. So we talked about how m is slope. Okay. Slope is how far up or down a line goes for every step to the right. Lines that go down as it travels left to right have a negative slope. And lines that go up have a positive slope. Okay? So we're always going to read this from left to right, just like how we would read in a book. Okay? And determine if the slope is negative. Okay? So circle the graphs below that have a negative slope. What you should have found was that the first two have a negative slope because going from left to right, this line goes downwards. Same thing for this one. Going from left to right, this line goes downwards. While this one, going from left to right, it goes upwards. Slope can be found by identifying 2 points on the line, finding the change in the y-coordinates, and dividing it by the change in the x-coordinates. That is, m, which is again slope, is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And here's what we mean by that. Okay. We're going to find 2 points on each one of these things. Okay. Now, first of all, we know that this one's going to be positive because it goes up from left to right. This one's going to be negative. Okay. But let's start with the first one over here. We're going to find 2 points randomly on here. So right here, we know that that is -4, -2. Then another one that we have is right here. This is 0, -1. Okay? And we're going to call this point 1 and this point 2. So to find the slope for that, we're going to take the change in the y values. Okay? So -2 minus -1 over the change in the x values, -4 minus 0. Okay. Notice how the y2's and the x2 has to come from the 2 position, the 2 dot. And the y1 and the x1 have to come from the y dot, or the 1 dot. Okay. So we are going to take a look at this. So this is -2 plus 1 essentially. So that's 1 over -1, excuse me, -1 over -4, which we know is 1/4. Okay, which makes sense. Okay, so what we really mean by this is that every time we go over one space, we go up 1/4. Over one space, up 1/4. Over one space, up 1/4. Over one space, up 1/4. Okay. So it should take us 4 steps to go up 1 spot because 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 gets us 1 spot. Okay. Here what we're going to do is do the same thing. We know our slope is going to be a negative number. Let's just find 2 spots on it first though. -4, 4. So that's -4, 4. And that'll be our 1. Another spot that we have is 0, 1. Why not? So again, m equals y1 minus y2 over x1 over x2. So let's do 4 minus 1, because this is our 1, this is our 2, over -4 minus 0. This gets us 3 over negative 4. Okay, so again, this means that this is going over 1, down 3/4. So over 1, down 3/4, over 1, down 3/4, over 1, down 3/4. Okay, which makes sense because 3/4 or negative 3/4 plus negative 3/4 plus negative 3/4 plus negative 3/4 is negative 3. That's why it goes down 3 steps when we go over 4. So now that we've been able to find the slope by just identifying 2 points, I'm going to show you guys a really quick way of finding the slope just by looking at the graph. We call this rise over run. The reason for that is because it's the change in the y values, which is the up and down, over the run, change in the left to right. Okay, so obviously running is you're going, you're not going up and down, so that's the run. If we take a look at these 2 points right here, we can see that it's going to have a positive slope, okay? And we see that the change is going to be 1, and the run is going to be, the left to right is 4. So our change is 1/4. Our slope is 1/4. Same thing over here. If we take 2 points, so this point right here and this point right here, we say our slope is going to be negative, and it's going to be 4 over, which is our run, down 3, which is our rise. Okay, it's not really rise, it's fall, but it's much more easier to say rise over run. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple examples here. But first, let's talk about the y-intercept. In slope-intercept form, we can identify the y-intercept, that is the point in which the line passes through the y-axis, by looking at the constant in the equation. The constant is going to be the y-coordinate for the y-intercept. And the reason for that is because, for example, if we go back to this one right here, it's 0, -3 is our y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis right here. And the reason for that is because when we plug in 0 for x, it becomes 0 -3. Okay, so 0, -3. So this is essentially, this term just kind of goes away if we plug in 0 right there, right? So it's 0 -3, which is -3. Okay. Same thing here. If we plug in 0, this goes away. So remember that this is plus 0, right? So 0, 0. That is why the y-intercept here is 0, 0. So here, it asks us to first identify the y-intercept and identify the slope, and then give the equation for this line. And let's first start with the slope. Let's find 2 points on here, so right here and right here. And this is going to have a negative slope because it's going downwards from left to right. And our run is 2 because we go over 1, 2. And our downwards is, our rise is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So -4 over 2, which is -2. Okay, so that is our slope. Our slope, I'll write that a little smaller, is -2. Okay. Then our y-intercept we know is going to be 0, -4 because it's right here. Okay. Which means the b value in this case is going to be -4 or -4. So our equation is going to be y equals -2x minus 4. Over here, in this one, we're going to have a positive slope. Okay, so let's take 2 points, a point right here and a point right here. Our slope, as you guys can see, is not going to be greater than 1. It's going to be less than 1, right? Because we're going over 1, less than 1, up, over 1, less than 1, up, over 1, less than up 1. So we're going to have a fraction here. And so our slope is going to be a rise of 2 over 5. Okay. It's positive again because we're going from left to right, it's going upwards. Our y-intercept, in this case, is right here, is 0, 2. So our b value is going to be 2. And so therefore our final equation for this is going to be y equals 2/5 x plus 2. Okay. Here, we're going to again have a positive slope because left to right we're going upwards. And our slope, let's find 2 points on here. Let's take this point and this point. Over 1, up 3, so our slope is going to be 3. Our y-intercept is 0, -1. And so our equation, therefore, is going to be y equals 3x minus 1. Okay, again, this -1 takes to this spot, and our slope is going to take this spot right here in the y equals mx plus b form. Here we're asked to graph these lines. Okay, so again, our y-intercept for this one is going to be 0, -5, right here. Okay. And we know our slope is 1 because right here, even though it's not written as 1, we know that 1 times x is just x, so they don't usually write it if it's a slope of 1, which means we're going to graph points 1 space over and 1 space up, 1 space over, 1 up, 1 space over, 1 up, so forth and so on. And we get our line right here. Okay. So essentially you just start by graphing the y-intercept and then taking a look at the slope and counting your slope over. Over here, our slope is going to be, or excuse me, our y-intercept is going to be 2. And we have a slope of -2/3, which means we're going to go down 2/3 over 3. Okay. Or we can also talk about this in terms of down 2, because rise over run. And we know it's going to be down, and over 3. Down 2 over 3. That's what this means, down 2 over 3. And then over here, you can do it again, down 2 over 3. And if we do that, we get a line that looks like that. And notice that we can even go backwards. So we can go backwards, back 2, up, back 3, up 2. Back 3, up 2. We can also do that as well to graph more points on this line. Finally, here we have a y-intercept of 1. Let me use the right color. Y-intercept of 1. And then we're going to have a positive slope, which means we're going from left to right, we're going up. And here, this is a little bit more than 1. Okay, but we can also think about this as up 5 over 4. Okay, and we can also go backwards. Backwards 4 down 5 would be right here. Oh, excuse me, not right there. That's down too much. Right here. Backwards 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we get that line right